What's going on, guys? Boss Basics here, back to your video, and today I have an album review for you guys. One that wasn't necessarily on my radar, but when I heard about what they are, then I was a little bit intrigued by them. And then, of course, is the newest offering from Hazzerd, The Third Dimension. This is their third studio album overall. They came out yesterday on the 24th of January 2024 on M Theory Audio. I don't really know anything about that label, so that was really new to me. Anyways, this band formed in 2012, although they went under a different name. So if you want to be technical, that's when they actually formed. But they formed in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And yeah, this is their third studio album overall. And not as really much that I know about these guys. All I know is that this is a young Canadian thrash act. And when I heard that they were thrash, I'm like, okay, I'll check them out. And I listened to like a couple of reviews, and I have heard that this was some pretty damn good stuff. So I decided to jump into it, and well, without further ado, let's get into this. Start off with the opening track, Interdimension, and immediately gets right into the riffs, and the riffs really remind me of Slayer, like instantly. Like we're talking Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss. We're talking about like that era of Slayer. And it really got your attention. It was very hooky immediately. It's pretty groove-laden. I get a lot of elements of Warbringer. In terms of, like, the vocals and a little bit of the riff style. And I'll be talking about Warbringer a little bit later on in this. But really damn good way to kick off the entire album. And if you notice that there's a little bit of a theme going on with this one. This one's, like, a little more a theme laid into like alien dimensions and, you know, like UFOs in a way. So yeah, you can kind of see like this has a little bit of a theme going on with it. It's not a concept album, it's just there's themes going on with it. But yeah, the opening track, Interdimension, is really damn good. And then I might as well talk about like the next three tracks because they all kind of have a theme, going for them. Scars, Unto Ashes, and Deathbringer. All of them have this very nice melodic intro that is really reminiscent of Testament, more so their current run that they're going on ever since they came back in 08. It kind of more so of like those melodies in a way. And they're all different too, I should say. Scars has more of a Death Angel vibe. Like the vocals really remind me of Mark from Death Angel, which is pretty cool. And actually, the vocals is actually the drummer for this album. And I will say the drum work is spectacular. I really love the drum work on this album. I think his name is Dylan, I believe. And yeah, he just he's a pretty damn good drummer. I will say the guitar tone on this album is pretty nice. It's a little thick and chunky, but it has that really nice, you know, crisp thrash sound to it. But Scars, yeah, really damn good. Kind of gives a bit of a Dark Angel vibe in some capacity in a way. But I really like towards the end of the album. It has almost like an 80s traditional metal sound to it, which is really nice. Kind of something like Raven, or maybe to a lesser extent, maybe Exciter might would have put. It's really nice. I really like that. Now Unto Ashes again has that opening Testament melody to it, which it's all nice and all. But after that, it really transitioned into riffs that really remind me of Exodus, which is very nice. I would say kind of more so their 80s sound, like maybe Fabulous Disaster, and maybe to a lesser extent Impact is Imminent. Really like that. That was very nice. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of Heathen. I would kind of say more of their, more modern sound. But I would say more towards their 90s output, which I really do enjoy. Like their late 80s to early 90s output, like Victims of Consumption. More so that. I really dug that. And yeah, I feel like not a lot of people really bring that element up. And then we get into Deathbringer, which, you know, a song like that may sound like, oh man, this is going to be a bummer. It's not. It's, again, more of that more melody thrown into it. And it's good. It's really good. I really love the chorus of that song in particular. It's very catchy. And then we get to TTT, which is the lone interlude on this album. And it's kind of eerie. It's a little haunting in a way. And I guess that might slay towards maybe a negative, but I actually don't mind that personally because it kind of breaks up the album a little bit. It kind of shows up a little more of their musicality in a way, and their musicianship. So I really dug that. Then we get to Plagueis, and again has a really nice crunchy opening, but it gets a little more groove laden again, kind of with Interdimension, where it has like that Slayer-like riff, and then gets right into those, those nice groovy midsections, which is really nice. Then we get to Thrash Till Death. Now, this one is one of the more standout tracks on this album for me. It has a more of a crossover vibe, kind of something to like, maybe to a lesser extent, like DRI, I would say a little bit of maybe Havoc thrown in there. It's not like full-on crossover, doesn't have that much of a hardcore vibe, but it has a little bit of those more galloping chugs, which I really do like. Then we get to Parasitic, which is probably my favorite track on this entire album because it is basically kind of a Hellripper song. Like the opening really reminded me of the opening to Hellripper's last album, the Nukaleve, which I really dig because if you guys have seen my channel, that was my favorite album of 2023. And yeah, that opening, and I guess the song in particular really reminded me of Hellripper in a way, kind of like without the blackened vocals. It kind of has more of those screechy vocals. But I really dug that. That was one of the finest songs on the entire album. And then we get to a Fell Omen, which I'm not sure what that necessarily means per se. But this is the longest track on the entire album. I think it's just about 10 minutes long, and it's an instrumental. And usually when I see that, I kind of just kind of shrug my shoulders and don't necessarily care. This one I actually really did because it's very melodic, it's epic sounding in a way, and really reminds me of Megadeth. I get a lot of Megadeth vibes. I kind of get Megadeth vibes kind of throughout the entire album, but this one in particular because of how epic those melodies are. And yeah, I would say the melodies on this album are absolutely fantastic, and kind of has a little bit of like different variety going on. You get your acoustic moments, you get your full-on thrashers, but you also get those epic melodic moments as well. I really do like it. They kind of combine that in the song as a whole, and it's really damn good. And then we get into the final track, Control, which has these like nice dissonant riffs. Again, really reminds me of Slayer in a way, more so. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ghost of War in some capacity in terms of that dissonance coming into it. And then it transitions into that Warbringer like style, and it's a really nice way to end the album. Now, as far as any complaints I really have with the album, maybe a track or two didn't necessarily do for me. Like, I feel like you could have broken up Scars Unto Ashes and Deathbringer. Like, you could have probably separated those tracks instead of making it 3 in a row, because they do kind of have this, they do in a way have the same intro. And I feel like you could have broken that up, in my opinion. And I will say the vocals, it kind of grew on me a little bit as the album went on. When they first started, they just sound very raspy and shrieky, but they did have like those nice melodies as it went on. I will say though that when it goes for the higher screams, it kind of gets a little ear-piercing in some variety. But that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. I've heard way worse vocals in thrash, so this one was fine for me. And I guess maybe another complaint is that maybe they didn't really go into full-blown thrash. Like, this was just like more so mid-tempo in some ways. It was more catchy and groove laden, which, don't get me wrong, I like that. But there wasn't like full-on barn burners I really expected. But that's not really a negative per se. I guess my expectations were a little too high when it comes to thrash like that sometimes. But I guess maybe another kind of, it's more of a production issue. The snare kind of sounds very ringy and pingy. That kind of irked me in some ways, but it didn't full-on bother me. And I guess the bass could have been up in the mix a little bit. It sounds like it's not even there. It shows up a couple times, but that's really about it. But those are just minor. Those don't really bother me in a way. But yeah, I feel like every song hit, in my opinion, and this was just a damn good album. I'm going to give this one 4.25. I fairly enjoyed this album. I also love the album artwork, too. It really reminds me of something that came out in the 80s. So yeah, I think this was a really damn good album. It's one of the finer modern thrash albums I've heard from a new band, in a way. And yeah, if you love Megadeth, Slayer, Warbringer, Exodus, Testament, I guess maybe a little bit of Anthrax thrown in there, you'll enjoy this album. You'll dig it as much as I did. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So folks, what did you guys think about Hazzerd's The Third Dimension? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, tap the bigger subscribe button, and tap the bell so when I upload, you guys will be notified. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Most importantly, enjoy the herd. Talk guys next video. Peace out.